Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the live watch party. We do have the Kings and the Oilers going on at the same time as this podcast, but we thought it'd be fun to kind of watch with you guys, and then also if you're listening on tape delay, do not fret. Because we are going to talk. There is just a ton of playoff stuff to talk about. Josh Yohe with The Athletic is down in Florida right now, covering the Tampa and Florida Panthers series. And comedian Joe Bartnick is here consuming all things hockey nonstop 24/7. He's probably in his downtime rewatching training camp games that he DVR'd.
That's who he is.
Well, no, as I said on my final dump on DVE, I can't wait for my split squad scrimmage out in Cranberry with Team A versus Team C, Team B off ice workouts, which Josh will be in attendance for.
I never used to get excited for training camp, but now they actually have a few prospects, so it's okay. I don't mind.
That and you used to have to like, oh my God, I was just here 2 months ago, but now they have such a long summer. You're ready for hockey.
Yes.
Right. No, today I did go back. I was in Chicago. I want to thank all of the people who came to see me at the Comedy Bar in Chicago. Great venue, fun stuff. And a couple of people were commenting on my mistress, which we're watching right now. But I guess we just jump right into it, Cory. I don't know what you have on your sheet, but I mean, was that one of the worst coaching decisions of all time? Was that Panic City, Josh Yohe? They literally pushed the stone open from the cave to let Jesus walk out Friday. Like it was done.
I was like half asleep, and I was kind of like shaking my head, like, "Wait a second! Like, what's he doing? Like, what's going on here?" And of all teams to give a power play, you knew they were going to score. Like there was no doubt. It took about 7 seconds, I think. That was just, and I think the guy's a really good coach too. But that was just like a panic decision. Like you're up 2-0 in the series, you're still in a good spot. Like you're going to score another goal against that goalie in 5 minutes. Like just stay calm. Just completely let them in the door. The whole series is bizarre. Like the Kings just going way ahead and then hanging on for dear life every game. It's also one of the most entertaining series, though. And Joe, your mistress team looks good. I mean that's a scary hockey team when they're clicking. It really is.
They really do. They got those three lines clicking. You know, Edmondson's played really a lot of hockey now. He's looking really good. He was kind of an old horse stuck in the barn all season. He didn't really get that many minutes when he did play. Not as healthy scratch. He was dinged up a lot. But Kemper's played well. But how about I told you, watch out for Mr. Byfield.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Just out of this world. Kempe, Josh, you've known Kempe, maybe the most underrated player in hockey. He's been killing it. Fantastic. But I just want to get back to that challenge, not to beat a dead horse, but they literally just looked at it. It wasn't like they didn't look at it. That's what gets me. Like they looked at it. They said it's a goal. What are you doing?
You can tell the refs were kind of looking at him like, are you sure? We kind of already made our decision. Like, what are you thinking here? It was, just talk about deflating your own team in that situation. It was like he didn't understand what the rules were or something. It was really bizarre.
Right. I mean, I almost thought, I was like, well, it almost like I thought they couldn't even review it. But then, who sees how this is going to happen, knock on wood. But to come out and get a 2-0 lead, to come out and storm the first 10 minutes like you were the home team tonight was really impressive by, the leadership group and the coaching there, Cory. Didn't you think so? Biz, Mr. ECHL, his analysis, he thought Edmonton was going to come out storming.
Yeah, I saw he had a Kleenex in his mouth or something, so they wouldn't talk because that's probably what he's most valuable for now. I was sitting there watching. I was watching while trying to get my kids to sleep, and so I can't get the which, by the way, we have Army and Steve Mears on the game tonight, so it couldn't be better for Pittsburghers. But I was trying to get a vibe for the game, and I'm like, holy crap, like the Kings are just steamrolling them, like I wanted to get a feel for it with just looking at it on my phone, in like a dark hallway. I'm sitting there like, oh my God. To me, the Kings, this series, it feels as though the Kings are the better team by far, but they just occasionally take their foot off the gas, or a combination of let up just a little bit, and Edmonton just storms through. Like if Edmonton gets on a roll, they can just pop 3-4 goals in no time. I don't know what you guys feel, but it feels like the Kings are the better team.
Oh, they are. Watching the Oilers, Joe and I are certainly old enough to remember this. They're like watching the late 80s Penguins. Like, they can't win the Stanley Cup. I know they came close last year, but they're just so bad defensively. Their goaltending's so bad. Like, you can't keep making up for that. But in their case, they just have these two players who are so extraordinary that, anybody who thinks McDavid's not great in the playoffs or not great in big games, you're not paying attention. He's unfreaking believable.
Yep.
Like, this is a terrible team. If you take away those two guys, like, this is a lottery team. They're that bad. And those two are just that great. And McDavid in particular, what he did in game one, the way they came back, and then LA scores 10 seconds later, the look on his face and on Draisaitl's face, it's like, oh my God, you were like pained for them. So I mean, they're not as good on paper as they were last year. We all know that. The Kings are certainly in the driver's seat. But if you're the Kings, like, it's not like it's comfortable playing against them, Joe, because those two guys can explode at any time.
Well, they were literally up 4 goals, and Jesus just took over. I mean, and I am old enough to remember Primo Mario Lemieux, and I don't say this lightly. He was like Lemieux. He just took game one over.
Oh, yeah. That was.
I mean, he beat everybody like 3 times.
That's one of the greatest games I've ever seen him play.
Yeah, it was incredible.
I know.
It makes me wonder. I was very young for this, but you guys would remember more. The 88 series, the Flyers versus the Penguins.
89.
89, whenever Lemieux had did he have 5 goals in game?
The 5-goal game. That was the Robbie Brown, Ron Hextall game. He had 5 goals, 4 in the first period, rather. Yeah.
And, like, that team, to draw that comparison, I've always heard about that, where they were like, it was, nothing. Like, the Pens were great at times because Mario Lemieux was unstoppable.
And, there you go.
Joe's cheering on his Mr. Stan.
There we go.
3-1 Kings now, everyone. No, Corey, they were. I mean, in that team, I would have to look at the standings, but if I'm not mistaken, that Penguins team in 88-89, Mario had 85 goals, 199 points. I believe the Penguins allowed 2 more goals than they scored that year. That tells you, like, how horrible defensively they were. They just weren't ready to be. And 2 years later, they won the Cup, but they certainly weren't ready in 89. And the Oilers have kind of been locked in that rut for like 5 years now. When they have these two guys who, not only is McDavid the best player in the league, but with all due respect to McCarr and McKinnon, I'm not so sure Draisaitl's not the second best. He's that great.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, Connor McDavid, I can't help but notice McDavid's like shaking his head, looking like he wants to play anywhere else right about now. And that they're like the Penguins of the late 80s. They're just such of an incomplete team. And I don't know where they go this summer or what they do. And I'm not saying this series is over yet, but this is no Cup team, Joe. I mean, they've got way too many flaws.
No, and I want to just slurp the mistress a little bit more. One of the biggest things that happened this year was Kevin Fiala is playing like Kevin Fiala can.
Yes.
He has not played up to his, I don't want to say his salary, because I don't think he's making a mint. He's not making chump change. But when he was brought to LA, we expected to have scoring Kevin Fiala, and he was just on the second and third line floundering around. And now he's like a 30 goal guy, and that was regular Kevin Fiala coming down, breakaway, buried it. That's what you want from Kevin Fiala. And it's hockey. As great as Jesus and Leon are, you can't have more than one. You can't have one line,
no.
And they don't have. It's literally, we're trying to talk about every team or the playoff teams, but can't get back to the Penguins a little bit for all the Pittsburgh people. The bottom line is, it's like you got to have more than one line, and now that the Edmonton doesn't have enough wingers to have 2 lines, let alone how the Kings have 9 wingers and got 3 lines.
No,
because, I'm sorry. Because he literally, okay, you have the one kid from they have the kid that came in from Toronto. He played for Hyman. You got Hyman, you got Leon, you got Jesus. After that, maybe Kane if he's healthy. Okay. Mm-hmm. After that, Nuge. Okay, that's it. It's kind of just like the Penguins. They had 4 guys until Koivunen and it's like that's just the way it is until Koivunen and McGrody. And you can't, and if you spread them out, then Leon's playing with garbage, just like Gino was playing with garbage.
Yeah.
No, that's right. And listen, you can look at the Penguins Cup teams in 16 and 17, and I would argue those weren't necessarily Crosby or Malkin's greatest seasons.
No.
They were probably more dominant in the earlier part of the decade, especially Malkin. But when you have Phil Kessel and Nick Bonino and Carl Hagelin as your third line, it just changes everything. It really does when you have that kind of depth. You can talk about the greatest players ever. Ovechkin was always great, but that Caps team that finally won was so deep. He didn't have to carry them. One person can't do it. That's just the way it is, Joe.
Well, Josh, but you were definitely right there, literally. As I was watching from, the television or from, row 59A or whatever. But I thought that 16 was a complete team that they were cooking on. I'm going to mess all my metaphors up, but they were running on all cylinders and they steamrolled everybody. I thought 17, I thought Sid, Gino, Jake, and Phil drag that team with Murray.
Yes.
I thought it was like those the big guys were the big guys, and they dragged that team.
They don't win that Washington series without Fleury, and then they don't win the cup without Murray. You know what I mean? It was like they had nothing but anchors, and everybody else was on fumes.
But I thought, like, when it push came to shove, like Gino and Phil and Jake and Sid just carried. I'm not saying other guys didn't. I mean, obviously Horny and obviously Dad, at the end. But I just mean for game in and game out, it was like they weren't the same team as they were 16, 17.
No, the 16 team was much better than the 17 team. Of course, the 17 team was playing without Letang, and 16 was probably the best season Letang ever had. That 7, I asked Mike Sullivan months later, I said, how'd you guys win the cup? Talking about the 17 cup. And he said, in 16, he said, even when we were down 3-2 against Tampa, I never was scared. I knew we were better. I said, yeah, okay. He said, in 17, he said, I didn't really feel that way. He said, we just had so many alpha males on that team, we just weren't going to lose. That's what he said. That's what you need to win a Stanley Cup. That they were just so gutsy. And I always had that 17 team I always admired because they were running on fumes, and the 2 guys who scored the goals in Nashville in Game 6, Hagelin and Hornquist, were both playing with broken bones that game. I think Hornquist had a broken hand and Hagelin had a broken foot, something like that. So but without the depth, it doesn't matter.
Hagelin was not like the 2017 season was not as good as the 2016 season for him. I think there was a lot of time he was questioned whether or not he was going to be in the lineup, if I remember correctly. Didn't he get bumped down to the 4th line? Or
yeah, he did. And the funny thing is the HBK line was never any good after 16. Like, they tried it a couple of times in 17, just wasn't there. The magic was gone. Kessel played with Malkin most of that year, and they were good together, thankfully for the Penguins. But yeah, you're right. They just had a few great players who kind of willed them to some extent, but you still had to have that depth, which they had. And all great teams have it. And getting back to modern day, the Edmonton Oilers don't have it. Like, Florida has it. You see it when you watch them play. Like, Dallas has it. There's some teams that just they can beat you with their 15th best player. Edmonton, Jesus, I don't know who their 15th best player is, but I probably wouldn't want them on my team because there's just no depth there at all. And the scary thing for the Oilers, Joe, they're old. Like, that's an old team. Like, that's not an easy roster to reconstruct this summer.
Yeah.
No, it's very interesting. Does he have a blood pack with Leon, or will he leave Leon to freeze to death out in the cold? Because at some point he has to realize, I want him to win because I don't want him to be the Dan Marino of the NHL.
Right.
I don't wish that on anybody. I think just what he did in Game 1 was just ridiculous. I mean, if you don't think that guy's great or root for that guy, I don't know what. But I wanted to move on to another superstar who I was sadly mistaken, or not sadly mistaken. I think we all had Vegas, but I didn't realize. I think I forgot how in December I was throwing Kirill the Thrill around as a Hart Trophy candidate. And then, I mean, Josh,
right.
have you seen, other than Jesus, who is dominated like this gentleman?
And I'll tell you, that series, Vegas is fortunate to be tied at 2. I thought they got outplayed most of that overtime yesterday. And to their credit, Hill made a couple saves, but Minnesota was buzzing. No, I was flying down to Florida during game 1 of that series. I was watching it on my plane thinking, man, like Minnesota looks better than I thought. Like I picked Vegas in 5 very comfortably. No, Kaprizov is a superstar. Like he is clearly one of the 10 best players in the game. And he's just fun. He is so much fun to watch. And that Minnesota franchise, they've been there since like 2000 now, I guess, the Wild, something like that. They're never terrible, but they're always so dull. There's never been any star power there. They're just average every year. Then he showed up and like they finally had a star. And they needed that charisma that he plays with. And that, by the way, like I've been to every NHL building. That is one of the best fan bases in hockey. That's an unbelievable hockey town. They are so into that. You watch during overtime, like they're standing the whole time. Like it's just an incredible environment. The Wild always used to just bore me to tears, but now I'm like, I wouldn't mind if they beat Vegas. They're actually kind of fun to watch. Like I'm kind of getting into this team a little bit. And Kaprizov's the straw that stirs the drink, no question.
Yeah, absolutely. And in Eichel and Stone, other than Stone, taking the stick to the face, haven't done anything. And Eichel was, Conn Smythe last year.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I know people that have Eichel very prominently featured on their Hart Trophy ballots this season, and he was that good. I mean,
absolutely,
he's a valid Hart Trophy candidate this year. He's been great. He doesn't look himself in this year. He looks a step slow. Like I feel like Minnesota's skating ability is really bugging him. And it's funny, we saw Minnesota play against the Penguins back in March. That was Jari's return, and the Penguins beat the Wild on that Sunday afternoon. And I remember thinking, like, Jesus, this Minnesota team's terrible. Like, I know they missed Kaprizov, but this team stinks. They might not even make the playoffs, and they almost didn't. They had to scratch and claw at the end just to get in, but all of a sudden they have all this energy about them, and they finally get people back in the lineup, and they've got some star power. They really do. I would still pick Vegas to win the series, but I only say that because they get 2 of the last 3 at home, which I think will help them. But boy, it has 7 games written all over it, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. And Gustafsson has outplayed Hill.
Very good. Oh yeah, no, I mean he's a good one. I never even considered picking Minnesota to win that series.
Me neither. I mean, it wasn't even close.
It's under our stone cold locks. I tweeted out the ones that we all agreed on, and that one is definitely one of them. And I was kind of hoping that, I thought, like Minnesota doesn't really stand a chance. Why don't they just throw Fleury in there? Just for one more time to get the flower out there. All of a sudden,
did you guys think? I thought it was kind of not. The word I can't think of. I didn't understand. I don't know. I mean, he put that young kid. He took I felt bad for the kid. He took the high stick Stone. It's like when the kid's like 14 years old. Did you think it was interesting? His first game ever is in a national defense, playing defense in the National Hockey League playoff game. A lot of pressure on the kid.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Like, are they that thin on the blue line? Like, I'm sure he's a good player, but yeah, that's kind of wild.
I mean, it wasn't It wasn't like I'd heard of him. Like, oh, he's coming. We can't wait for him.
That was PK. When he was a rookie with Montreal, he made his debut in the playoffs against Washington, and then they beat them and beat the Penguins.
That's right.
So, I mean, there's some precedent for it. You don't see it very often. Washington's got the young forward, Leonard, I think his name.
Yeah.
Who's really good looking player. Like he just made his debut right before the playoffs. So it happens. But no, I'm really enjoying that series. It's a fun series. And my 2 locks entering the playoffs, I thought that Carolina and Vegas had like no chance to lose their series. Carolina looks in good shape, but that Vegas team, they don't have any weaknesses, Vegas, but there's nothing very dynamic about them so far in this series. They're just kind of blah, and Minnesota's the team playing with all the passion right now. They're dangerous. I'd be a little concerned if I were a Vegas fan.
It would be really fun. I mean, I'm not going to say anything because I want the mistress has to do its job, and then. But how about a Minnesota LA series? That's a that'd be a fast series. That's the other reason, though. I thought bringing the kid in, he looks smallish. Vegas are huge. That's another reason why I thought I'd bring this little kid in. But I picked the Devils, and just not even just for fun, and they're not going to do it now. But they had their chances. They
did.
Well, they certainly had their chances, but I don't know. I feel bad even for the fans of those teams, because with the Devils losing so much of their star power, like, that's just such a blah series to me. Josh, you said, thank God you're not covering that one.
Yeah, I know. The Athletic asked me to cover. I said I'd cover whatever series, but I was hoping for a good one, and they didn't ask me to do Carolina, Jersey. How would you like to go to Florida, Josh? Sure. I'll go to Florida very happily. Yeah.
Staying out west, though, my big underdog pick, the Bluesers.
Look out.
Alive.
Over that.
Oh, yeah.
Live dog. And my feature this weekend is a St. Louis fan, so he was all stoked.
Yeah, and they're like, not just because even in the first two games, they were winning game one, like late in the third period, weren't they?
They were up they were in the third period. They were up 3-2, I think, in game one, right?
Yeah, it's like, the first two games, like Winnipeg just got by the skin of their teeth, and you're like, okay, but they'll eventually get clicking. And St. Louis I did not see that. Like, I did not, thankfully, bet on those games, because, good Lord, I would have lost.
Yeah, they got their asses steamrolled both of those games in Missouri. And Joe, the pressure on the Winnipeg Jets going back to Manitoba for Game 5. Oh boy.
Carolina West. Regular season Rod's coaching that team, and I'm telling you, it's getting a little tense. And Hollerback versus Bennington. That's why I said Bluesers in 7.
You might be right. When did the Blues learn how to score goals all of a sudden? Like, I always think of them as this kind of like, pedestrian offensive team that just doesn't overwhelm you with skill. But man, that they are scoring in bunches really late in the regular season and now. And the pressure on Hellebuck, he's played in high pressured games. I realize he played in the Four Nations and everything, but excluding that, like, this is probably the most pressure he's ever been under going back to Game 5. Because I got news for you. If they lose Game 5 in Winnipeg, I don't think they're going to St. Louis and winning. Like, I don't. I really think they need to win that game at home whenever they play next in Game 5. All the pressure in the world is on them now.
It is, and I'll tell you, Bob Thomas, he's worth his money. I remember poo-pooing those when they signed him and Kyrou, like, for those guys.
I did too.
And now Bobby's looking like he's worth all the money in the world. And I'll tell you what, and Buchnevich, he got the Hattie the other day.
Mm-hmm.
What a good hockey player. And Buchnevich was one of the guys that the Rangers got rid of to bring in, the world's toughest DJ, Ryan Reeves.
He was also good at scaring people too. Remember, that was like the highlight of his Penguins career, was he scared Phil Kessel in the hotel or whatever.
Oh,
remember that they posted that on social media or whatever.
Yeah, and it's
pretty much all he did.
Yeah, he's a professional wrestler. He like stage fights and talking and cutting promos. It takes a lot for me not to like a guy who plays for the.
In my short time covering Ryan Reeves, I very quickly concluded that he had a very high opinion of himself. I will leave it at that. He was friendly enough to deal with, but he was very taken with himself for sure.
Oh, he thinks he's he's like, I'm gonna, exactly. I don't even waste the airspace on him. But the Rangers need a guy like every team could use a guy like Buchnevich.
Oh. Yeah, they never should have let him go. That was crazy.
No, and Kyrou came back from that mega hit too. Yes. I mean, oh my God, that's one of the 5 biggest hits you'll ever see.
Oh yeah, no, it's a great series.
Yeah,
we got a bunch of great series, and that's one. And I'm not shocked. Like, if you would have told me beforehand St. Louis is going to upset them, I could see it, given Winnipeg's postseason history and given just the way the Blues have been playing. I mean, they've been one of the best teams in the league for the last 2 months now. So this probably isn't a shock, but they're playing with house money. And that's the thing when you were left for dead in March, and all of a sudden you make the playoffs. Like, if you lose in the first round, okay, no one's going to hold it against you. If Winnipeg loses in the first round again, when they won the President's Trophy, when it's very hard for them to get players to go play there in the first place. Man, that certainly changes a lot, and it changes, I think, the way we look at Connor Hellebuck.
You know what changed the way I looked at Connor Hellebuck was when he got absolutely destroyed last postseason, and he blamed the team in front of him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is not what you do, young man. And and I'm not going to bring, and I will bring this to this. I always thought this about Dan Marino, and it always gets on my buddy, a friend of mine who's the biggest Dan Marino guy, and not even a Miami fan or a Pitt fan. He's just a huge Marino guy. And I always say Dan was a finger pointer.
You can't
when things go wrong, he always pointed fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Teams don't win with finger pointers, and teams don't win with goalies that don't take responsibility. Josh, how many locker rooms have you been in where it's like, yeah, exactly. Hey, we could have done this better. We could have done this better. No, you say, I need to be better.
You just say it, even if it's bullshit. You say it.
Ben Roethlisberger was the best at it. Like
Ben Roethlisberger, Ben would throw for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns, and they would lose 42-41. Hey, this one's on me. I need to be better. You knew he was full of shit, but people just appreciated it because he said it anyway. Mario was always great about that too. I didn't cover Mario, but I know for a fact he would always say, "I make the most money. I'm supposed to win games. It's up to me."
Yeah, and I was a big Winnipeg Jets fan for a long time, but now they're in my bottom 5 because they're trending that way because no more Paul Maurice, and the biggest reason Big Buff didn't want to play there. When you lose Big Buff, I mean, Big Buff is like one of the all-time greatest, most entertaining hockey players of all time. Remember when he Andre'd the Giant? Those two guys, like he pulled 2 guys out of a scrum and banged their heads together.
Oh yeah,
just like that's enough. In the Mike Johnson era, in the Barzini era, my lowest pit. Even I didn't even know any better. It was like pre-Mario pit of like losing 10-0 in the Spectrum to the Flyers in 1980. That's the Mike Johnson era. I said, there's only one man that can change our team, and that was Big Buff. I didn't know it was really JR and Sullivan and like 9 guys, but I thought at least Big Buff can come in here and we won't take any shit from anybody anymore.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
I was kind of surprised that they know. I remember when Bufflin left Chicago. I'm like, God, they're not going to win a cup like that. He's like the linchpin. Like I thought that was the guy that like the stir that or the straw that stirred the drink. I loved him. Winnipeg should move out east, become the Quebec Nordiques, so that way we don't have an extra Canadian team thing, and then move Detroit back to the west. Because this is a little off topic, but I feel like Detroit belongs in the West. I really like the Detroit Chicago games and the series, and it just maybe that's very 90s hockey of me to think that way, but
that's got to be a new drinking game. Is every time Cory tries to get Quebec a team again.
Oh
yeah.
Right on cue. No, which I'm all for, by the way. And I think I've told you guys that the Penguins played a preseason game in Quebec at that new building. It's been about 8 or 9 years ago now. Best hockey building I've ever seen in my life. Unbelievable place. So, yes, we need the Nordiques back for sure. Although I won't say it at the expense of the poor people of Winnipeg. I've been there many times. It's all they have. Like I don't know if they could be deprived of it once again, but boy, I don't know if they're ever going to win a championship because they're never going to have a better chance in this season with the team that they've put together. It's going to be hard for them to keep that team together long term, though.
Speaking of speaking of Buff and another former Winnipeg Jet, the much traveled Patrick Laine, healthy, scratched 2 games in a row. Now, with all full transparency, I missed most of the game today. But I thought Friday night, Washington, Montreal was the best playoff game I'd seen. And I've enjoyed many of them. But I thought that game was at a different level. Even my mom was like, whoa, these teams are playing hard.
When you have a fight on the bench, you can't. That's when it's real playoff.
Tonight's game was pretty wild as well. Montreal had them on the ropes in the third period. If we want to flip to that series now, it's been one of the most fascinating series that there's been, I think. And it got nasty again tonight, Joe. Wilson threw a very controversial hit in the third period. There was definitely some head contact. Ovi ran over someone, too, and got a penalty. He's lucky it was only 2 minutes. really, really nasty play. Ultimately, the Capitals won, but it's not a comfortable series for them. It never is against Montreal. The atmosphere, I can only imagine. You can tell watching on TV what the atmosphere is like when they start going crazy in Montreal. It's a different feel altogether. Not a comfortable series for the Capitals, but to their credit, they kind of got their shit together tonight and found a way.
Yeah, I thought they would. I thought just Ovi just not right. It may be in the second round, but I thought he's going to have to win one round. I just thought the team is just on too high of a roll. But did they not purposely play the anthem on TV because they booed the American anthem? Because how can you not show the anthem in Montreal? That's one of the greatest things ever.
That's a good question. Are they still booing the American anthem?
They were last time
in Montreal.
Yeah, they did. They did last year. They did, and also I'm sure the lady passed. But remember in the like the 2010s, they had the Jeanette Renee.
Oh yeah,
and she had she was ill, but she still came and sang. And that, I mean, you almost tear come to your eye when she does "Oh Canada." I mean, that it doesn't get better than that.
"Oh Canada" is by far, by the way, a better national anthem. Like, I mean,
I'm
not saying their country's better. I'm just saying, like,
it's a better song. Yeah.
I could sing that song. Like, I do sing that song walking around like my yard sometimes.
Our national anthem kind of sucks, like, just in terms of song quality. Like, I think the Russian national anthem is way cooler. Honestly, like, I actually like that song.
Our anthem's good on harmonica. Shout out to the mistress.
I assume we'll be seeing that again in Game 5, right?
Oh, hopefully.
Yeah. How could we not? At this point, it's been good luck.
You know, and this will be my drink. You know, my drinking game is I'm still pissed at the Rush. Yeah, because they're afraid of Kirill too. Imagine Kirill, Kirill in the Five Nations. They don't want any part of Kirill. That's just another guy.
No, of course they don't. The Montreal Washington series. Like, I was driving from Tampa to Fort Lauderdale, and I missed most of Game 3. And people kept texting me like, "There's a fight." I'm like, "Okay." Like, "No, on the bench there's a fight." I'm like, "What?" Then I got to my hotel and I saw the highlights. Like, "Oh man, I missed a really wild hockey game. This is too much." And that was a vintage Tom Wilson, by the way. And then Wilson was like, mocking the Canadians. Like, it was, everything about it was priceless. Like, Tom is like most bullies. Tom is really, really gifted at kind of playing the victim role a little bit. He'll go from like pounding somebody to like looking at the ref like like I'm under assault. He's a great villain though. And that whole team's kind of filled with villains, in fact. And I mean, to their credit, I didn't like how they were playing at the end of the regular season, Joe. And you can't tell. Sometimes they had nothing to play for. They were kind of distracted by the Ovi record, whatever. But they've been pretty good. They haven't dominated the Canadians at all. I mean, they've been. There's been one overtime game. I think a couple of other really close games. So it hasn't been easy, but they've done what they had to do.
Right. But on that point, for a team, usually a team that has had nothing to play for 2 months, i.e. the Vegas Golden Knights or Winnipeg, usually when a team comes in on a heater, they have a hard time matching it for a while. And to Washington's credit, they did kind of absorb that energy and raise up to that level. And they're missing Protas. They get Protas back. He's a big body and a good scorer for that team. I think Washington just cakewalks to the Eastern Conference Final.
Do you? I mean, I know you're not a huge Carolina fan. I still think Carolina can give them fits.
I think they can grind them down and kind of muck it up. I mean,
they're good defensively. It's not easy to score against them. Their goaltender got hurt today, which certainly could be an issue.
Oh, imagine that. Hans Christian Frederick Anderson getting dinged in a playoff game. He's as how about we'll get to Dallas at some point because there's a lot to talk about in that series. But I couldn't believe Casey DeSmith showed up in a playoff game. I thought for sure he was going to be in a press box eating popcorn, pretending like he could play.
I was going to call you when I saw him come in the game. Like, oh, Joe's going to be going nuts right now. This is great. But yeah, the Metro's been bad all year. Who knows? I think it was Timo Meier. Timo,
but it wasn't a Nick Kyprios like falling on Grant Fuhr. I mean, more guys.
I actually thought it should have been a 2-minute penalty. I didn't think it was a major. Like, he did kind of skate into him. But granted, their backup's a pretty talented kid. We'll see. But it certainly looks like now with Washington and Carolina both up 3-1. I almost certainly think that's the second round matchup.
When they lost, the Polish kid, they say he's named 2 different ways in 2 different cities. That was a huge loss on defense. They got Siegenthaler back, who's good, but I thought that Kowalczyk or whatever how you say his name, I think he's a very good defenseman.
He is.
He's from Portugal, I think.
You know what's going on right now? We haven't mentioned it yet, and thinking of them ever winning a championship is amusing because we've never seen it in our lifetime. But things are really shaping up nicely for the Maple Leafs right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're up 3-1. And they're going to put Ottawa away, I would imagine, in Game 5 at home. Florida and Tampa, this series that I'm covering for The Athletic, it feels like it's just getting started. They're really starting to beat the hell out of one another. Like, Toronto's probably going to get a beaten-up team. And whoever wins between Toronto, Florida, Tampa's going to probably beat, I think, Carolina or Washington. Those teams are just so much better than the Metro. This is the best shape, the best position that Toronto has been in a really long time, Joe.
Josh, that was my rant last week.
When I said like this team a lot.
I like this team, and it can't be any easier. They're getting their little brother in Ottawa. Then they're getting a beat-up Tampa or Florida team. Then they're getting, Washington is good, but the weakest Metro team, going back to the Patrick, it's the weakest it's ever been.
Yeah.
So, but let's just talk about that series in Toronto, Ottawa. The stat heads and all these, they're saying, oh, Ottawa's done this and done that. I think Ottawa has got their ass kicked and hung on. I know Ottawa is my second most hated team. And how about Cousins, that tool? Just grow up. I know it's stupid, but really, it's fun if Ovi does it or even Tom Wilson, but you're a little puke. You're a healthy scratch.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I watched the overtime between those two teams, and Ottawa never had the puck. I don't know how they won. They really got fortunate. They're just not that good, and I think they've looked very immature the entire series. Game 1 in Toronto, they just took one penalty after another, dirty plays. It wasn't even helping their cause. So it's not like Toronto has steamrolled them every game. There have been a couple of overtime games. I realize it's been close, but Toronto's been the composed team. They don't look like the team that's been the playoff choke artist over the years. There's a maturity to their game. Maybe that's Berube being their coach. I don't know. Maybe it's just evolution and time and maturity. But they look very much at ease. And you know what's really impressing me about them, Joe? And I'll say this all season, and I'll say it for this series. Matthews hasn't looked himself all year. And yet they are still getting offense from so many different people. And it's really impressive right now.
That's such a great point. But it's one of the best playoff series he's looked. I think he's 85% in the faceoff circle. Right. They're dominating faceoffs. But Marner, maybe the Four Nations got him out of his big game show. Marner's look great. Prince Willie's played great. Johnny T ripped the C out. He looks good in A. He's playing great. And the big four finally got help. I mean, how about Nye? Nye's just
the big five with Matthew Nye. Right?
Nye's just dropped that kid, man. The guy was in a back check. No, I'm on a break. Wait now. That was, I don't say this. That was vintage Mario, just shaking him off like he just shook him off like a fly. I mean, that was incredible. And the McMahon, I love McMahon. They really have a deep bench now, and something they never had. They really have defensemen now. Tanev is Tanev. But Benoit, how about his overtime goal? He's not even playing bottom 6 minutes anymore. He's been a beast back there. And Oliver Ekman-Larsson, hey, 10 years ago, he was in the 5 best defensemen on earth. And then he just shit the bed in Vancouver. He found his game back in Florida, was on the championship team last year, and now he looks like regular Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I mean, him pinching and burying the puck yesterday. He's a couple goals now. I mean, and he's meaner and tougher than you think.
Yeah. Oh, listen, this Toronto team's. I can't believe I'm saying this. They could win the whole thing and it wouldn't shock me. I think they're that good. I really do. And I think their path is a really good one. as we have discussed. The more I watch them play, they didn't look great in January or February. They kind of hit a lull in the dog days of the season, but they really ramped it up late in the year. They won the division, which I think was really important for them. And because you don't want to have to play Tampa or Florida in the first round, for God's sake. They got to play Ottawa, so they're healthy. They're impressive right now, and they've got a good coach. We know that he knows what he's doing. They just look so much more disciplined. They don't give up odd man rushes. They don't force offense anymore. They have enough talent. They're scoring anyway. They are a scary team in the East right now. I'm not going to say they're the best team in the East, but if they emerged from the East, it would not shock me, Joe.
Well, we have to check the tape because, Joe, I think when Berube signed with them last year, you said something along the lines of this could be the thing that turns them around.
Yes, and I have a listener on a text tweet, however it comes up, Cory, said, and they have solid goaltending, and absolutely Stellaris has put up a brick wall. And
He's good
goaltending, and not even great goaltending. He's not making. He doesn't have to make miraculous saves. He's in the right position, and he's like 7'5", so the puck hits him. I mean, he's just standing there, and he's playing perfect hockey. He's not. And the thing with Berube is he's calm back there. He already has his ring. He knows he can kick everybody's ass in the arena. So he doesn't get
self-confidence that comes with that. Yeah.
Yes, and he just doesn't get shook up back there, and that's what that team needed was somebody who doesn't get shook up. Sheldon Keefe, I don't think he's a bad coach, but he gets caught up in the moments.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Berube's just we're okay, and he lets Marner relax. He lets Matthews relax, and that's what you need because it's the best. I know it's only 3 games. Or 4 games, and it's against one of the worst teams in the playoffs, probably the worst team in the playoffs. But still, it's the best those 4 have played.
Hey, I'm glad you brought up Tavares. They never should have taken the C off of him. It was a bullshit thing to do. He's one of the classiest guys in hockey. Great guy. He is playing great. Like he has been so good. I mean, every time I watch him play, I'm like, man, this looks like 2014 John Tavares we're watching right now. Like he really looks reinvigorated. And I give him so much credit. He could have had the boo-boo face when they did that to him. And instead, he just keeps showing, I think, what a good guy and what a good leader he is. He's a really important part of that team. And every time I watch Nyes play, Joe, I mean, this guy, he looks like Artie. I mean, he is just a monster of a power forward. He scored a beautiful goal. It was game 3 or 4. Like, it's like, man, this guy's like out of control how good he is. And he's still young. He's a kid. I wait till you see him 2 or 3 years from now.
He's like offer sheet going to cost.
Yeah.
I know. Well, it's only like his 3rd year in the league. What's funny about that is in your article, you said they should offer sheet. I thought you were going to quote me, not quote me, to say, but you said that the Byram. And Byron to me is a little disappointing. I maybe Buffalo just brings out the worst in anybody. But if I had one offer sheet, it would be nice. I wouldn't even hold back.
Well,
but now Nyes, I think they would probably just let Johnny T go away. As sad as that may be,
they're going to have to.
There's no way you're not keeping. I mean, I know I'm not the biggest Mitch Marner fan. I know Mitch Marner is like one of the only 4 guys in the last 130 years Toronto hockey to get over 100 points, but I don't see how you don't keep Matthew Nyes over everybody.
Oh, no, I think that's a pretty easy decision. No, you don't let players like that go. You pay them what they want. Now he is, man, every time I watch them play, he just sticks out on a team with stars. Like you just notice him all the time. And there's not many guys in the league who can do the things he does at that size. We just don't see that anymore. He's like a 90s hockey player who is, a good enough skater and gifted enough to play in this era, but he still brings that size element. He is impressive. And let me ask you this, since we're talking about the Maple Leafs and we know they're going to win that series. Who do you think they match up better with, Joe? Tampa Bay or Florida? If you're Toronto, like who obviously want them to have a 7-game war no matter who you play. Who would you rather play?
I would rather play Tampa.
Me too.
If I was Toronto, because I mean, I thought Florida would be tired, and that's why I picked Tampa in 7.
Me too.
But now the old champs, you know, the old gunslinger is still around, and I would not want to take on. I would not want to face Florida because I also think obviously Florida is a tougher team. Now Toronto's gotten tougher, but they're not Florida tough.
Well,
no, I always look at the defending champs as the guy from Saving Private Ryan, you know, that he lets go and then comes back, and it's like, no, you got to chop that head off, like stop them before they get started. Yeah, I don't think Tampa's a tough. Like, it's they're not as tough as Florida.
No, it's an interesting series. Tampa, of course, might have more pure talent than anybody if you're talking star power. But Florida, you know, I picked Tampa in 7 also, and down here covering the series, halfway through game 1, I thought to myself, "Oh man, Florida just flipped the switch, didn't they?" Like great teams can do that. Only the great teams can just flip that switch. They win the first 2 games. They dominated the first period of game 3 too. I really thought, boy, Tampa was in trouble, and Vasi held down the fort, and Jake Gensel showed up as he always does in the playoffs, and they ran away with that game. But I still think Florida is in the driver's seat in this series. It's just hard for me to imagine them blowing a 2-0 series lead against anybody, just because of who they are. And, you know, Kachuk looks healthy. Marchand's been kind of quiet in the series, but he hasn't been bad. He's playing. You got him on your third line. Like that's kind of scary. He'll have a moment at some point. Bobrovsky's been really good. So I think it's an interesting series. It may well still go 6 or 7, but I think Florida's in the driver's seat. And if I am Toronto, I'd much rather play Tampa. I just think it's a more comfortable matchup. They've actually beaten them in a playoff series. I think that was Tampa they beat, wasn't it?
Yep.
So a couple of years back. So, I mean, I just think Florida, I was a little wrong about them. I thought they were exhausted. I thought they were probably done. They haven't looked that way at all to me in this series.
No, there's so much to dig in the series. I'm glad you're down there because there's so much to talk about. I don't even know where to begin. I think I will begin here. Tampa seems like they're 1 or 2 guys shy against Florida. Do you see that, Josh? They're just maybe 2, like at least 1 guy short.
We talk about depth, right?
Yes.
And okay, Tampa's got Kucherov and Point and Gensel and Hagel and Cirelli, and those guys are awesome, and Hedman. But after that group, there's a big drop off. Okay, Florida's got Brad Marchand on their third line, right? And they've got some other really good people in their bottom 6. So you can see, yes, Florida just comes at you in waves. They're more physically impressive than Tampa. They're just bigger and faster. And you're right, Tampa, because of all the star power, you know what happens. I mean, you just can't afford to have a great bottom 6, and their blue line is okay. But it's nothing special. So to me, that this whole series is Tampa's star power against just everything that Florida brings to the table. And I agree with you, Joe. They make Tampa look ordinary at times.
Yeah, Chernak hasn't been Chernak. Gord hasn't really been Gord.
No, real quiet.
Like, yeah, so it's kind of like that's the next level. Or has it reached the esoteric, you know, like the Lundell level? That when you have Lundell as your third line center, I mean, what more you have to say? How about Jake the Snake? I mean, we love him, but is he not building a Hall of Fame career now? I mean, really? I mean,
he doesn't even have to keep this pace if he just does okay from here on out. Josh, you've been tweeting the numbers. It's insane.
I wrote about it the other day. Like, we don't necessarily think of Jake Gensel as a Hall of Fame player. It's not like there's never been a time when he was one of the 5 best players in the league or anything like that. But if he keeps going at this level for 5 more years, he's going to get 500 goals. And so if you take a guy who's a 500 goal scorer and who also is one of the most clutch players of his generation, it's kind of like if Claude Lemieux also scored 500 goals, right? I mean, that's Jake. I mean, he look at the numbers in the big games. He always shows up. He was Tampa's best player. He's been Tampa's best player in the series by far.
1,000%.
Not even close. Because no, Kucherov made a couple of plays the other day, but he has not been himself. Point's been okay. Hagel's not been good. Hedman's just been okay. Vassey's had one really bad game. He hasn't looked himself the whole time. No, Jake's been great. He is top 10 all time in postseason goals per game. He's got, I think, now 40 playoff goals in 72 games all time. Think about that.
It's insane.
When it's harder to score in the playoffs, 40 goals in 72 games in the playoffs. It's incredible.
But I think that's a legit. I mean, that to me is what the Hall of Fame is for.
Yeah,
it's for guys that shine when the lights are the brightest. Because I mean, it's why I think the Rat's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
I think he's a lock. Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. But I mean, I'm does the Rat have 500 goals? Maybe he does.
No, he doesn't. He's a little over 400, I think.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So I mean, it's just about what you do when it matters. Speaking of the Rat and speaking of hits, I hope that Tkachuk is not suspended, because I don't know what you guys think. I think there's a huge difference between those two hits.
I was just going to say, I didn't think it was as bad.
I mean, first of all, Barkov is. I know Jake is. We said he's her best player, but Barkov was the captain. I thought Hagel got a piece of the head. They made the big thing on. That's where someone's saying, "Why are you on Biz?" Because I think Biz took the other side. I think Biz was playing the Stephen A. Smith to be, to go against the grain on TV today, when he's like, maybe they should suspend Tkachuk. And did you really think that, Biz? Did you really think that? Because I think you're full of shit. Because the other one, Barkov didn't touch the puck, and it was a headshot. This one was, he didn't hit him. He purposely went shoulder to shoulder. He purposely ducked to make sure he did. Tkachuk purposely ducked to make sure he just hit Jake in the chest.
I won't give Tkachuk too much credit. He knew what he was doing. I mean, it was late as hell. I mean, it was a really late hit. I'm going to sound like a Neanderthal, but that's okay. It's, we're doing a late night podcast. Only the hardcore types are up watching. I don't think every dirty hit needs to be suspended. Like, was Tkachuk's hit dirty? Yeah. Did he deserve a penalty? Absolutely. He didn't need to be suspended, and he's not being suspended, by the way, Joe. I wouldn't have been offended if Hagel weren't suspended. I thought the 5-minute major was warranted, but it's a dirty hit. It's a playoff game. Like, I don't know. Like, I guess I'm not as sensitive to that stuff as I once was. Like, I think to be suspended, you need to do something truly flagrant. I think 5-minute penalties, and penalties exist for a reason. Sometimes that's enough of a punishment. And especially in a series like this, people are going to hit people late. They're going to do nasty stuff. That's hockey.
Well, I agree with you. Like, did they just wake George Peros up? Like, why don't you do this in the regular season?
Right.
When it doesn't really matter, and send a message and miss a game. Hagel could miss the game in Ottawa, but maybe not game 4. Send the message then. Don't send it on a borderline suspension. Like, and they say a 1 game in the playoffs is 2 games in the regular season. That was not a 2-game suspension hit. No. I am sorry.
It wasn't, but I have to say I'm enjoying this series in general, because it's very clear to me, like, these two teams genuinely hate each other, and it's great. Like, I can't get enough. I could watch Matthew Tkachuk play all day. I just watch him, like, even when he's on the bench, he's just running his mouth the whole time. Like, I love when he's on a line change and he's real close to the Tampa bench. He just doesn't shut up. And at the end of game 2, Tkachuk and Bennett and Marchand were all going at it with the Tampa bench. I couldn't get enough of it. And speaking of the Rat, cheap plug, I had a one-on-one interview with him this afternoon, which we'll run in The Athletic tomorrow. And I know people in Pittsburgh don't want to hear this, but he's actually a very, very likable guy to deal with. And he is enjoying himself in Florida a great deal. He's been good in this series. He hasn't really had a big moment yet. He will at some point, Joe. It's just a matter of time.
And that's exactly why Toronto doesn't want to play Florida. I think they've seen enough of the Rat the last 10 years.
That's right. They're not afraid. Florida, man, you talk about a grizzled team that knows how to win in the play. Like, somebody still has to beat them 4 out of 7. And I'm not saying Tampa can't. If I'm Tampa, like, listen, you won game 3, you got some momentum. And the best thing for Tampa that I feel like no one's really talking about that much, like, in the last 2 games, Vasilevsky's only given up 2 goals. He had a terrible first game, and he gave up a bad goal in game 2 to start it. Since then, however, he has really
he was making me look real bad, because I believe I said last week that he looked like the goaltender nobody wanted to play And then all of a sudden, like right off the bat, I'm like, oh no, I think everybody wants to play that guy.
Yeah, well, he's one of the reasons why I picked Tampa in 7. I thought that Vasilevsky was back to being Vasilevsky, and now he kind of is. I mean, he'll never be. I mean, he was the closest thing to Waugh for about 3 or 4 years. There.
Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, there's no question. Both these goalies are, in fact. Now, this series is interesting. I really think no matter what happens in Game 4, if I were a betting man, I would guess Tampa will win Game 5 at home one way or the other. I just don't think they're going to lose 3 games in a row at home. And I would be surprised. But that said, Florida is still very much in command. I think it's going to be just as hard to beat them 4 games out of 5 after you fall down 2-0 against them. They're just Florida's not going to hand you any games. They're going to make your life miserable. And I think Paul Maurice, I don't think there's a better coach in the game today.
Speaking of Paul Maurice, we had a comment come in, and Josh, I was curious. Could you shed a little light, because they kind of brought up, like, how has it been covering Maurice and Cooper? Because 2 great coaches, 2 great personalities in different ways. What's that like, the juxtaposition of those 2 coaches in a series?
Oh, I love it. Apparently they get along too, from what I've been told. Even though they're taking little jabs at each other.
Maurice was great.
Oh,
just great.
Maurice is the funniest. He's like the most interesting man in hockey. He really is. I was down here in September, actually, and he started his press conference. He walks to the podium. You're about to ask him hockey questions, and he starts off by saying, first of all, before you guys ask me questions, I was wondering what your favorite Godfather movie is, because I've been having a debate with it. And we can talk about Goodfellas and where you rank it against The Godfather if you want. That's fair game. And I'm like, what the hell? This is great. Like, that's just how he is. He's just a really funny, likable guy. To answer the question, Cooper is very entertaining. I mean, Cooper, I don't know if arrogant is the right word. Yeah, I guess that. I mean, he's definitely got a healthy opinion of himself. He definitely thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. You can tell that with Cooper. But I like dealing with him. He's funny. He's interesting.
But unlike Ryan Reeves, he's actually won Stanley Cups.
Yes. Oh no. These are great coaches, and I mean, just Cooper's a little full of himself doesn't mean I don't enjoy dealing with him. He's actually really entertaining, really interesting things to say. They both do. You can see why players like playing for both of these guys. And going back to Jake Gensel and Cooper, I thought it was interesting. Cooper was asked about Jake the other day, and he made it, which I think is a fair point. He said, I was coaching in 4 nations, and I'm coaching against Jake. And he said, it occurred to me that when you go back and look at that tournament, Jake was the Americans' best player.
Yeah.
And he probably was. I remember in the final game against the United States and Canada, Jake Gensel was the Americans' best player. It just goes to show when the games get bigger, so does Jake.
Hey, and I love Jake. I wasn't trying to knock Jake. I can't believe he stepped into Steven Stamkos' shoes easily.
I know. He's a better player now. I mean,
1,000%.
I love Stammer. Stammer's a Hall of Famer, but I mean, Stammer was not the player he was 5 years ago.
It was not a good year in Nashville.
No, it was not. And Jake, listen, Jake always has good teammates. He's been fortunate. He's hit the teammate lottery for sure. But as John Cooper said the other day, and he's right, he said, not everybody can play with great players, and Jake makes those great players better. And he's absolutely right.
Well, the other thing, too, though, is I think Jake, and Lord knows I've saw every single second of Jake's career in Pittsburgh. He looks like a better player to me this season than he did in Pittsburgh. And I'm not, I mean, does he not, Josh? He looks like a more complete hockey player.
I was talking with our friend Paul Staggerwald not long ago. In fact, it was during 4 Nations. And Staggy made a good point. He's like, Jake's a better skater now than he used to be. Like, he's faster. Like, look at him. Mm-hmm. And Staggy actually compared him to Wayne Gretzky. He said he makes these little moves like Gretzky would make. He's kind of built like Gretzky was. And he is. He's like that. They're all slight, small build. No, Jake is a star, man. He is a great hockey player. Like, and the thing about Jake, like we always talk about his hockey IQ, right? Because he's not that big. He's not that fast. He doesn't shoot the puck that hard, but he just knows where to go, and that's true. But what I also appreciate about Jake is how damn tough he is. Like, they list him at 178. That's a lie. That guy weighs 165 if he's lucky. And the beating he takes night in and night out. The way he goes to the net and just, I mean, Ekblad almost killed him the other day with a cross check in front of the net. I mean, he just gets up and he comes back from work. Chuck, I thought, knocked him out with that hit, and he just got up and whatever. Like he is, as Sully always used to use the word brave when describing Jake. He said Jake he's just brave. He's not. He knows he's going to take a beating, and he just does it anyway.
He's Harley Race. He's tougher than a $3 steak.
He is. I have so much respect for Jake. I do, and I like him on a personal level. I admit, he's a great guy, but he just to be that size and to deal with the punishment that he deals with, and at age 30, like I see no signs of him slowing down, despite the beating that he's taken over the last 8 years. I have so much respect for him.
It's funny, too, because we can agree. I mean, just with Koivunen and Brunicki, and then however it pans out, the other 5 guys, and and then but it may just look like a terrible trade whenever he's in the Hall of Fame.
Well, yeah, no, it's look terrible for us, but it still is a terrible trade for Carolina. Like, imagine,
they're the team that screwed up.
Like, why? Like, how I hate to crap on an organization, but how boring are you at playing hockey? Like, how terrible is your brand of hockey that you get a great player like that, and he's like, "Oh, what? You're willing to pay me what I want?" Nah, like I can't. And I mean, obviously he gets to play with Cooch down in Tampa, but I Jake, to me, you were saying about being brave. Like, there's a lot of things. Don't get me wrong. All hockey players are tough. But there's certain things that get branded as tough things that hockey players do. And it's like, well, like their shin pads basically block the, what I mean? Like they take the shot off the shin pads when they block it. Okay, that's not really that hard. Jake would like get, cross checks to the back of the neck and punched in the face and at the bottom of the scrum just getting destroyed. And he just gets up like it's nothing,
Oh, and
ready for the next shift.
Yeah, that's toughness to me.
Yeah.
And like the hit he took from Tkachuk, like his head freaking bounced off the ice. That's because Jake's not a very big guy. Like when he gets hit, like he goes airborne. He absolutely does. So it's been fun to watch him in the playoffs. He has played now 8 career games against Bobrovsky in the playoffs, and I believe he has 7 goals against him in 8 games. He's, he is a true star.
How didn't he bleed when his face hit the ice like that?
I don't know.
I mean, a kid we used to skate with. I was like 8 years old. He felt like that, and I mean, oh my God, it was like a horror movie. Yeah, it was terrible. I went.
Before we go to the next one, though, we should mention our wonderful sponsor. I do want to get that in there before. Sorry, Joe.
No, go right ahead, because then we have a lot to talk about out west. The other great series.
Yes,
it reminds me. Our sponsors clearly cheering for the Habs this week. I'm sure I've not spoken with him yet about the Washington game this evening, but he is, of course, Bill Neofus. Neofus Insurance, our great sponsor. They're located in the North Hills. And we tell you this every week, not just because they're our sponsor, but Bill's a friend, and I know him on a personal level, and I know the kind of guy he is and the way he cares for his clients. It is legitimate. They will not rip you off. They will treat you well. Neofus Insurance are located very conveniently in the North Hills, close to Ross Park Mall. It's 412-364-3388. Whatever the insurance is that you need, it doesn't matter. Car insurance, life insurance, apartment insurance, you name it. They will take care of everything that you need and then some, and they'll even talk hockey with you a little bit too, which is one of the reasons we like Bill so much. So neofusinsurance.com. I'll give you the number one more time. 412-364-3388.
Thank you, Mr. Bill.
It's getting summertime too. Bill, insure your boat. You're out there on the high seas.
Be happy to.
If you own a pool, I would know you want to make sure you talk to your insurance agent about what that means, because if you put one in, guess what? Things change. So thank you, Bill. But yeah, going out west again. So the Dallas, Colorado series. Have you guys seen the meme? The meme of Tiger Woods standing there completely put together, and John Daly sitting there smoking a cigarette, like dressed like he is. And people were saying like, the Colorado playing like out of their mind, and Dallas, casually, leading for like a minute and 10 seconds and up 2-1 in the series. To me, I don't know how you guys feel. I'm really curious. One of the things I wanted to ask you was, do you feel like Game 4 kind of swung it back in Colorado's favor? Like Colorado, to me, feels like the more complete team. Something feels a little off to me with Dallas. But then again, they were up 2-1, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's the best series in the first round, probably. Colorado's been the better team. I mean, what's Dallas had the lead for? Like a minute?
Yeah.
They've got 2 wins. I will say, like, the best Dallas has looked all series to me. I thought they were great in overtime at Game 2. And when I watched that, and I know they won Game 3, that was when they started to look like Dallas. I was like, whoa, like they maybe just finally found something here. And it's been a great series since then. But Colorado has beat the hell out of them in Game 4. I mean, that wasn't even a game. That was just an easy win for them. So I think Colorado's operating at a high level. I'm not going to say things have swung in their favor. And Dallas still has 2 games at home. Colorado's going to have to win there again, which might not be easy. It's probably a 7-game series. But Joe, let's not ignore the storyline here. Not only did Gabe Landeskog come back, he's been great. Like, he has been really good. He looks like Gabe Landeskog. I know it's only been 2 games, so he's going to have to do it for a while longer before we can say he's officially back. But he's looked better than I was expecting. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I mean, just when he came out was amazing. His goal the other night in Game 4 was amazing.
Yeah.
You have to wonder if Heskinen's going to make an appearance. And the old bananas, the black bananas for the Stars showed up. A little Jamie Benn action. Tyler Seguin looks like Boston Tyler Seguin this series. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I think these teams are so even that it's the team that needs the most desperation. That's who's winning. Like Dallas needed Game 2, so they looked incredible. Avalanche needed Game 4, so they looked incredible. I think it helps my cause for me picking Dallas in 7. Or no, I think I went back and I think I picked Colorado. Yeah, I think that's right. We had Dallas all year, and then I picked Colorado. Yeah, it's just going to be tough to beat McKinnon and Makar. 2 out of 3. But Dallas has looked great. I think we talked about this last week. I think they had 1 game under their belt. Our last episode, they look like they really missed Jason Robertson. Yes. Like, which I think that's. I know I'm not a genius for saying that. Hey, they missed their number 1 winger, but that it just seemed like Dallas is a little bit short on offense, and Colorado just keeps coming in waves. Colorado's been much more physical than I thought too.
Oh yeah, they have. Dallas, the one good thing for Dallas, like I think Ottinger's been really good. Like I don't know why they pulled him. I don't know if that was just to spark the team or if he was banged up a little bit. Like I thought he was good last night. They were just getting steamrolled. I think he's been pretty good in the series. So that helps. We'll see if Heiskanen comes back. I'm sure he'll try at some point. It would not shock me. But I think for the most part, Colorado's been better. They're certainly faster. They're more dynamic. And when I watch Dallas play, like I have all the respect in the world for him, Joe, but Mikko Rantanen hasn't been dominant there at all. Like he just doesn't look himself. It can be tough going to a new team. He almost looks a step slow to me. Like he's not.
I feel like they'd be a better team if they didn't have him. That sounds crazy.
I don't know if I'll go that far, but I mean, he hasn't been what they were expecting, and that might well change. But he has not been the player that we saw in Colorado all of those years. And if he's not going to score, if he's not going to have a big game, I don't think they're going to win 2 out of 3 against Colorado. I think they need Rantanen.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a proper comparison, but it's like he was so used to playing with McKinnon that they always knew where each other were. So even though Rantanen is a great player in his own, and like I've said many times, he would pull the Gino. When McKinnon would be out, Rantanen would take over that team. Yeah. He carried that team a few months at a time, which was incredible. Which is why I always put him a cut above Pasta. But this year, Pasta's did it all himself, and the other power forward or younger guy, but a winger. But it seems like so he hasn't just meshed into the offense, because the Dallas guys, they're set in their ways too. It's almost like it came a little too late in the season for them to really get a chemistry together. Because I think Brandon's had some good plays, but he just hasn't been. I mean, you can see the skill and you can see the want. He hasn't been floating. He hasn't been line A out there. But it's just he's not exactly been rent. I get exactly what you mean. And I said I think last week I didn't like how Wyatt Johnson got moved down. Like I think it just kind of rattled the chemistry a little bit on that team.
Wyatt Johnson needs to be in the top 6. I think. I don't think that guy's a bottom 6 player. I think
and he just signed that huge contract. Like I mean, it's like No,
I mean I don't know what you do there. And boy, but every time I watch Colorado play, guys. Like Val Nichushkin is just unfreaking believable. Like what a hockey player that guy is. So that's why Colorado they've got McKinnon and Makar who are 2 of the 5 best players in hockey. But then you consider Natchez has been quiet, but they still have got him and Nichushkin and now all of a sudden their captain is back and looks so good and Devon Taves. I mean, they still might have the highest ceiling of any team when they're locked in.
I mean, yeah, if you're Jim Nill, I mean, you're just calling for a piss test. That's the only way you're stopping.
I agree, and it's not the worst idea. But I will say this. If Dallas wins this series, and I pick Colorado, I'm going to stick with them. I think they've been the better team. But it's not like Dallas couldn't win this series. Sure, they could. If they do win this series, it's going to crush Colorado because they've been the better team. Like it's going to sting like hell if they don't find a way. And Dallas has been their kryptonite.
Those years between 2009 and 2016, where there were a couple like, oh God, we let that one get away.
Well, we said this. I mean, there's 2 teams with absolutely, everyone thinks they can, we go on a run. I think, Minnesota, the way they're playing, hey, we can win the cup, but 2 teams legitimately that could win the cup are going to go home. Tampa or Florida or Dallas and Colorado. Oh, yeah. That's why those 2 series are just incredible.
Oh yeah. No, that's why, the series I'm covering down here in Florida, like I was just on the phone with my mom. She's like, honey, when are you going to be home? I said, well, Mom, I could be home after game 5, so I could be home on Thursday. I said, probably not, though. I mean, I just, these are both series that are just wars. And you could argue those are the 4 best teams in the league.
No, and then Toronto, and then I put the Kings in 6 in Vegas. I think those are the top 7 or 8 teams. Right?
No, I mean,
I guess you can't got to throw Washington in there too. How about Edmonton? Just what a lucky bounce!
I know.
Richard warming up, getting the lucky rolls of the dice.
Every game in this series, like the Kings go way up, and then they're just hanging on. It's following the same script, Joe.
You could feel that momentum switching there the last couple of shifts before that, and then. What a bad bounce, though. I mean, Drew Dowdy.
You know what's interesting? And now I should have wrote it down. I didn't take any notes this playoff series. Which my mom goes, "Are you taking notes?" I wasn't. How many? I think linesmen have determined 2 games in this series.
Yeah.
There was it was I think Minnesota yesterday, right? They called it I'm losing the word offside. What's
right.
Yeah, it's like that was you're gonna call that in overtime. Come on now. And the other one was it was like an icing. They called it icing. Like, really? There's been a questionable icing and a questionable what's the word for when you
a delayed offside, or what was the
whenever you purposely go offside.
Intentionally out.
Intentional. Sorry, listeners.
Yeah, no, that's a hell of a call to make an overtime of a playoff game. Intentional offside. Like, come on.
Well, my theory. I think I said it last year during the playoffs. There's nobody that loves the attention more than a linesman in the NHL playoffs. Because how many times we have to see them reset the sticks? Although it has been better this year, the whole league it has been. But it's like. Come on. If they could get the microphone and stand there in front to explain every offsides call, they'd do it.
No question.
But it was an epidemic, though, I'd say 3 years ago, was how many false face-offs there were, or just people just kicking everybody out. And it was like a nun was in charge of the face-off circle. It died down a little bit. It's not as bad as it was. There had to be a direct. Maybe they woke Paris up for that meeting.
And just so everybody knows, I mean, we were kind of like talking about it, but if we kind of keep in mind, everybody's listening. Where the Oilers just brought it back to 3-2, so there's about
9.5 minutes left
in the game. It's going to be interesting. The momentum. I mean, I think the shots at the end of the second period were 31-17.
LA's been the better team. I mean, and McDavid's actually been pretty quiet tonight so far, Joe.
I know both goals.
He took a bad penalty. I never saw him give a corkscrew to a guy before ever.
Yeah, he's.
Yeah,
but hey, it's just he's got 10 minutes to push the rock away from the cave. Like he's coming.
Oh, of course he is. This is great. Everyone bitches the Kings and the Oilers every year in the playoffs, but it's great hockey. I mean,
I know we talked about those other two series that are great, but this is my favorite one.
Yeah.
Speaking of poor coaching decisions by a Kings or Oilers coach, I thought last year's final, just not throwing a fourth line out or a third line or a second line or anybody but Jesus and Leon. I think they played every shift from 7 minutes left, and they were just gassed. Yeah, right. And it's like, why didn't you just throw Mark and whoever out there for a shift with 3.5 minutes left?
Nope.
Plus, you never know when a Randy Gillen's going to score a big goal,
Right. No, I remember that very well. They absolutely wore out. No question. Especially when you're playing against a team like Florida. And I always think back to Sid. Sid always says he doesn't like playing more than 20 minutes in a game. He always says, I like a good hard 20. And I said one time, well, why? Like Mario used to play like 30 a game. And he said, well, Mario never got tired. He said, I have a different style than him. Like I don't like playing 25 minutes. I feel tired. I don't feel like I'm as effective. But I remember thinking about that night with McDavid and Draisaitl. Like, there's a reason you don't play all 60 minutes. You need to rest a little bit. That was not a well-coached game for Edmonton.
And isn't that why there's the Holy Trinity and then either Hal or Sid or pick your poison? because Mario could just float and play when he wanted to.
Well, and when he was playing hard, he just never looked tired.
That's what I mean. Like
there was something, and he was like smoking a pack a day until he was 26. It didn't matter. He was just.
When did he quit? Was it by the 90 cups or was it
after the cancer diagnosis?
Oh, okay, so he was smoking until 93.
I believe. Yeah.
He was like, that's what's funny to me is like Sid, I know, like will drink coconut oil and coconut milk or something like that, and like very conscious of everything that goes in his body, and then like not that Ovi's a specimen, but Ovi with his his Coca-Cola and what's he Doritos and
no, it's Pepsi. Probably the only thing I don't like about Ovechkin
is it's Pepsi. Yeah,
Pepsi. Really?
Because
I go off on my about cats and Pepsi, and the lady came up to me last night and she goes to me like she goes, I love you, but I have cats and I drink Pepsi, and I go
bye.
I don't hate cats.
I don't understand how anybody could like Pepsi more than Coke. It's always been very strange to me. Yeah. I don't get it.
It's too much. I do want to say one thing that
you're good.
I do want to say one thing that's not in the playoffs right now, but we didn't talk about it. Was the Pope has left, and I don't mean the guy in Rome. I mean the guy in Long Island.
Well, he did too, but yeah.
I was like, well, we're taking a different turn here.
But Lou Lamoriello, has stepped down, or it was canned, and I got blindsided by this on the morning show on DVE. Pursuta said that Sully was talked about for the job. Is that true? Is that true, Josh?
I did hear that on the morning show.
For what job? The Islanders?
To be GM.
I think I took it as him saying somebody floated that idea out there. I don't know if
I haven't heard anything along those lines.
I was doing shows in Boston, so I didn't even hear that he got canned. I go, what happened? Like news to me. I was like,
and I wonder, I haven't spoken with Kyle Dubas about this since the news. Lou Lamoriello is like Kyle's mentor. I do wonder if Kyle will extend an invitation to Lou to be in management in some capacity, perhaps as an advisor or something. I don't know. It wouldn't shock me. Lou doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who ever wants to stop working in the NHL. Lou's an interesting guy, but you cannot deny the success he has had. That guy knows hockey, and he's been very successful really at every stop except for the Islanders, where things just never really work. There's just not a ton of talent on that team. But I was still surprised. He's just not the kind of guy you expect to ever get canned.
No, I would love to have him come be a senior advisor. And Lou Lamb, as I said, he's the Pope. He's the Godfather. I mean, he's one of the 5 greatest GMs in NHL history.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
He would be light years ahead of what's his name, Mr. Ty, Mr. Undone Ty.
Oh, Burke. Oh God, yeah.
Burke.
And think about Lou, like those teams in Jersey. Like I know they were boring and they set the game back or whatever. They were more talented than people remember. Like they really were. Like those teams had a lot of really good hockey players just because they were good defensively, and they would shut your team down so you didn't like watching them. Like there were some good players on those teams.
I mean, he drafted incredibly. I mean, especially early Devils good teams. I know Shanny wasn't on. You know how much I love Shanny. Shanny wasn't on any of those cup teams, but those early cup teams, Lemieux, Richer.
Oh yeah.
Guys that could bury the puck. I just spaced on somebody I had in my
Patrick Elias and Peter Sikora and all that.
Yeah, they had offense. I'm spaced on somebody. Anyway, forget.
No, but yeah, so I really I would like to see him come in. I was really scared whenever they were saying that Sullivan would be named for that job because I don't know. Sullivan just strikes me as a coach. I don't think he wants to go anywhere.
The New York market's obsessed with him. I mean,
they want him in the worst way.
Oh, the Rangers. Apparently, Chris Jury's like infatuated with the idea of Mike Sullivan being the Rangers coach. But I'm just telling you, I just don't think it's going to happen. I have had conversations with Mike in the last few months where he has looked me right in the eye and said, I do not want to leave here. I want to coach this team for a long time. And I believe him. I really do. So the Rangers can ask him if they want, they can try. But or the Islanders, I haven't even heard that one, to be honest with you. I'm not saying it's not true. Who knows, but I just don't see it happening.
Drury was re-upped.
Yeah. How about that?
That was a surprise. Was Scott Gomez the name you were thinking of, by the way?
No, but it's a good. Oh, Billy Guerin.
Oh,
yeah. Billy Guerin. That's who I was thinking of. Thank Scotty Gomez, though, Penguin Killer and a great guy. I partied with him up in Alaska.
Oh, yeah.
He's from Alaska. He's like the king of Anchorage.
That's awesome.
Why did the Devils? Jason Arnott. They had a lot of guys who could score. I mean, they really did. They weren't as boring as we necessarily remember. They just never gave up any goals. So.
Which is easy to do when you have Martin Brodeur. So
right.
Scott Stevens
shots a game. So yeah.
Stevens and Danico. It's hard to get past. Yeah, hard to get by those guys. And summer programming at its finest later. But one of the most underrated players ever is Scott Niedermayer.
Oh God.
Oh yeah.
He has more hardware than Ace when you really look at it.
Yeah. Nah, Niedermayer is without question, one of the 10 best defensemen ever.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe higher. Maybe I'm not giving him enough credit. No, he was. And if he would have played in this era, how many points would he have put up? Now when defensemen are allowed to, play like Kel McCarr, like he could skate like Kel McCarr. He was as close to Lidstrom as it got. Like
I was gonna say he's, I think, the second best defenseman that I've ever seen.
Yeah. Oh no, he was that good.
I remember when people were this might have been it could have been like my friends talking about, but in 09, 08, people were saying like, well, we saw Niedermayer do what he did. And then now we got Rafalski doing what he's doing with Detroit. And I was like, that's not really a comparison I'd make. And then seeing him, seeing Jordan Stahl go around him in game 4 was
Rafalski, right?
the chef's kiss for me. I was like, yes, thank you. But real quick, I wanted to ask you guys, we can get into, like Steelers picks, all that kind of stuff, whatever. The Shedeur Sanders thing was fascinating to me. Because I tweeted it out like this. It looked like a sports dad finally not being able to coach his son and find out how good everyone else thinks he really is. I don't know how closely you followed it, Joe. Josh, I know you tweeted about it a couple times. To me, watching Shedeur fall from, in Dion's eyes, as a top 5 pick to the 5th round, but let me just disclaimer: there is nothing nefarious here. I tweeted about it. I said, look, Jalen Carter killed somebody with his car and fell 3 picks. So, like, the NFL doesn't care about all of that stuff that much. If you can play, they're going to pick you.
Yeah, and by the way, in my experience, I don't cover the NFL, but I've interviewed a lot of famous people in my life, and I've been around a lot of famous athletes. Quarterbacks are always assholes, like they just are. I mean that they've had their asses kissed their whole lives because they're the star quarterback, and they usually just have an arrogance about them. So I don't doubt that Shedeur is full of himself. There's a part of me that feels bad for him because I also don't doubt that he was absolutely raised to behave that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course, his father raised him to behave that way. Dion, I mean, I find Dion very entertaining, but let's not act like Dion wasn't completely full of himself for his entire life. So if Shedeur rubbed people the wrong way, that doesn't shock me. The whole thing's interesting, Joe, because I watch Colorado play a lot. They were always on national TV. Like, I think he's pretty good. Like, I do. Like, I think he could be a pretty good NFL, maybe not a star, but I don't think he should have gone until the 5th round. I really don't. I just wonder how much of it is teams just not wanting the circus that includes his father.
Well, I think that's all of it. I mean, to me, he's the Colin Kaepernick, but for other reasons. Maybe. You just don't want the circus, especially if he's not going to be guaranteed to be a starter. He's not guaranteed to be a great player. So the minute that it's like, oh, well, he's not going to start game 1. Well, then you're going to have a controversy. Then you're going to be on ESPN. Like, I mean, I just got the aftermath of all the people talking about it on Twitter and on SportsCenter when I'm just looking for basketball. I'm only watching SportsCenter to get my NBA highlights just to see who's winning in that respect. I don't really give a damn about drafts. So it's just like, what? And to hear about it constantly, it's like, he wasn't that good. And you're going to put up with his dad? Because then Dion should be the coach. That'll be the next question. Well, maybe they should bring in Dion, and that's what Dion's orchestrating. He's orchestrating all of it, and I can't even blame the poor kid because ESPN is using it just like they use LeBron James stubbed his toe. Yep. Let's cut into the tennis because LeBron James has spoken. Jesus Christ has spoken. So they have these same 30 idiots to talk about the same thing in a circle all day. And that just happened to be Shedeur was in that circle. And unfortunately, it was a bad moment in his life, and the poor kid had to live it over and over and over again. It's like, who cares? He fell in the draft. Jesus Christ, he's already a millionaire. What does he care?
That's right. Yeah. I don't feel sorry for him in that way for sure. It was just interesting because I watched him. I'm not some talent evaluator, but I watched him play enough. Like, I think he's pretty good. But I think that's what it is. Like, if he was a sure thing, if this was Mahomes or Josh Allen, somebody would have taken him first overall. Okay. But when it's like, he might be good, we're not sure, then I think you weigh the rest of it. It's not some like league-wide conspiracy like I see people. And I can't wait to hear what Dion has to say about, oh my God, he's going to go nuts. But Joe, the important thing I think in all of this, we are going to get a Cleveland Browns circus. It's going to be unbelievable. They've got 5 quarterbacks. Deshaun Watson, we know about his troubles. You got Kenny Pickett, for Christ's sake. Now you've got 2 rookie quarterbacks, and you got old man Flacco, too, just for fun. It's just unbelievable circus that the Browns will be this season.
The Browns have Flacco?
Yeah. They signed him. They've got 5 quarterbacks. I don't even think Watson can play this year, right? He tore his Achilles or whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, still, you have 4 quarterbacks, like the 2 of which were drafted.
Plus 2 rookies. You have 2 rookies, a first-round bust, and Joe Flacco.
So that means that Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett is getting cut.
Well, I don't know. I don't even know. We haven't even talked about the Rodgers saga, but I think the Steelers should have just got Flacco and saved all the money. And then you have 2 guys that can play, and then draft, and then go all in for Archie Manning's grandson, or a bona fide, or maybe move up and get the kid from I like the kid from Miami, and I like the kid from South Carolina. The Giants can have Dart. I watched a lot of SEC football. Dart's okay. He's probably like Manning. He's okay, but he's not like a superstar.
No, that sounds about right. Yeah, I don't know. I think clearly the Steelers are taking a quarterback in the first round next year. It's a heavy quarterback class. The draft's in Pittsburgh. They're going to have a bunch of comp third round picks they can use to trade up in the draft if they have. I get it. It has all the makings. And I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with Rodgers. I know people who cover the Steelers who have told me on no uncertain terms, like they're signing him. Like it's pretty much a done deal. But until it's signed, I don't trust that guy for a second either. I don't. He could change his mind. Would that shock anyone? But the Steelers are certainly operating as though they think he's going to sign with them.
Well, yeah, and they could go for, and I've been wanting Arch Manning since he was in 10th grade. So, I've been mapping out when he could get drafted. But I will say that many of you that listen know I am a huge Michigan fan. And I will say this, Will Howard, I think the Ohio State quarterback, mind you, lost to Michigan. He might be, I think he could have the best career out of all the quarterbacks that were drafted.
Really? So I've never heard you say anything nice about an Ohio State kid before.
It kills me. It killed it. Yeah, but here's his thing. If he's able to learn how to dissect defenses, he's unbelievable. When he walks to the line and knows where the ball's going to go and where he should go, he's unbelievable. It's when things get disguised, which is what you're going to see why he got picked in the 6th round. But I jokingly tweeted and said, if anybody has a chance to be the next Tom Brady, it's him. And that's specifically because he was a Big Ten guy drafted in the 6th round.
Right. We should probably carry this conversation for a minute longer because Joe's Mistress team is just hanging on for dear life.
I mean, how many is Kemper even in the net? I mean, he's been just
swimming.
He's been in the blue paint. This is drama.
We got a whistle with 107 left. The Kings are up there.
I'm glad you're talking about Ohio State quarterbacking because it's something I literally have nothing. I have no. It's like and this hockey. It's funny because isn't the last Ohio State guy came out really good, right?
CJ Stroud.
Because before that, they've all kind of stunk because they're just used to having. That's the problem with Ohio State is they're just other than playing Michigan, they play 10 teams they're completely better than. So and so all the guy has to do is throw to open receivers all day long. He never gets touched because they all have like steroided freak 390-pound college kid linemen. I mean, no one has a better advantage than an Ohio State quarterback.
Yeah, no.
Which makes them hard to gauge.
Until CJ Stroud came out, my joke for the longest time was that the most successful post-college quarterback from Ohio State was Kirk Herbstreit. Strictly from his television days.
Well, I think Art Schlichter had a couple good days at the track.
Yeah. But
I love shitting on Art Schlichter. I love it.
Here's the thing. I actually felt bad. Okay. Now I see you're like 5 seconds ahead of me. So whenever Joe reacts,
oh boy.
You're getting it live here, folks.
Again.
Jeez.
The Oilers have tied it with 28 seconds left.
Oh.
Bouchard again. We were just talking about who Bouchard hasn't played this year like he did last year, and now he's going to win a Conn Smythe.
As such is life.
This is insane. Well, don't challenge it, Hillier, you moron.
We should mention while we're talking about the Steelers draft, what a terrible story. The young man they took in the first round, his mom
passing away right afterwards.
I mean, he seems like a really nice kid too, and I don't remember ever hearing a story quite like that. Just so horrible.
No, Prizzuta was talking about that and said he's sitting there on speakerphone with all the media, and he said, "Actually, I'm going to go. My mom's on life support, so I'm going to go now, if you don't mind, and tell her that I got drafted. And it's like, Pursuit was like, what are you doing talking to us? You know what I mean? Like, oh my God. Like,
Right.
you know, and he just seems like he's like got he seems like a good head on his shoulders. He used, for God's sake, he used his NIL money to buy his mom a wheelchair accessible van.
Yeah, how about that? No,
You know?
I know. I mean, that's he seems like a really good kid, but what a tragic story.
The only thing that gives me solace in that story is that she heard he got drafted before she passed. I almost think it's one of those things where she hung on long enough to hear where he went.
Yeah, we don't know the details. I mean, but hopefully she could hear it, and then we know he went to the hospital to tell her. Yeah, I don't know. Hard not to pull for that kid.
No, and they've got it. The Steelers in general had a good draft, but yeah, the Shedeur Sanders, I just felt it got to the point I felt bad. I think he was like a second, third round talent, in my opinion. But like you said, Josh, is that worth the headache that's going to come with it? And then it just became a thing. And then him Cooper DeJean got prank called last year, and nobody threw a big stink about it. And that's what people were throwing. But that wasn't with malice. That wasn't with me. Like Shedeur was the national story for falling in the draft, and somebody prank called him.
Really? Did someone call up and say, "Hey, you've been drafted"?
So it was the Falcons defensive coordinator's son.
Yeah, the Falcons defensive coordinator's son saw the number on an iPad because there was a phone number that that Shedeur had just got, specifically given to teams to call on draft day. So like there's no reason anyone should call it. He called up and he said, the kid said something like, this is so-and-so with the New Orleans Saints. And it was like in the third round. And he's like, oh yeah. And he's like, you've been waiting for us. And he's like, yeah, I've been waiting. He goes, all right, well, yeah, you're gonna have to wait a little bit longer, and then hangs up. And like the prankster side of me is like, that's hilarious. But it definitely, I'm like, dude, this, like, don't kick a guy while he's down. You know what I mean? Like Cooper DeJean last year was funny because it's like he got picked like 2 picks later. Like,
the guy should have went like Baba Booey and put it on the Stern show.
If Shedeur ever runs into that kid, if he wanted to beat the hell out of him, I think I'd be okay with that.
Don't do things with malice. Like it comes back to bite you. Joe, you're muted.
Joe's so disoriented that the game's gone to overtime. He's muted himself.
Okay, am I back?
Yep.
You're back.
It's really funny if it was like his best friend did it, or like his roommate. It's not funny if a guy you don't know did it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't.
Yeah.
That doesn't.
Like his younger brother or somebody did it just to screw with him.
But that would be like, I mean, that's something I do to my brother. But real quick before we go here, did you guys see the Bill Belichick 60 Minutes thing? Good Lord. His girlfriend, his 24-year-old girlfriend, was like cutting off the 60 Minutes interviewer and saying, like, because he said, like, oh, how did you guys meet? And she off camera was like, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about that. People were like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like, how did you meet? Was it a lady of the night?
More than kind of weird. I heard about the interview. I've not seen it. How old's Bill? 73, I think.
Something like that.
To each their own. Good for him, I guess.
Great for him.
But he's coming across as like what a weirdo. He's like why is I don't know. There's, and I feel like this whole thing in North Carolina is not going to go well. Like I know he's a great coach, but I don't know.
Well, Josh, like we both date younger women, and we're blessed. But that's just creepy. And as a parent of a daughter, I am not like that. I would not be. That would not go down. Like just the same way. Like I wouldn't let my daughter. I mean, Mick Jagger's wife or girlfriend's like 28 too, or whatever. Like it doesn't sit well.
Like I like the Stones, but come on. Like,
yeah, I can buy tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't need the free
Bill,
ticket.
Bill's a different kind of guy. That's all I'm gonna say. Oh no, I feel like we're gonna find out a lot about him someday, and it might
Yep.
not be of the favorable variety. I don't
Probably
know.
not great. Somebody said, I think there's some Shannon Sharp level disclosure coming.
Or at least some
Mhm.
Robert Kraft. But that's I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can have rough sex with Shannon Sharp, because how would you even understand his safe word?
Well, that
What did you
On
say?
that
What?
note,
What'd you say? What'd you say? What'd you say? He's the only guy on TV that needs he's English and he needs subtitles.
I've
well, back
never
there,
understood his appeal. I will say that.
whenever he went on Instagram Live while he was getting down, and then immediately went out and said, "I got hacked."
Yeah,
You
sure you did.
well, yep, okay, sure.
Right.
Um, didn't press the wrong button. Anyways, well, yeah, I guess that'll do it for us, because I mean,
It's our longest podcast ever.
yeah, this is, but we were hoping that we'd be able to sit here and have a little quick, like, hey, the Kings and
Recap.
Oilers, one's up the 2-2 or they're 3-1, but
Instead, Joe, have a drink, get ready for overtime.
Oh, I'm having a drink.
And I will say this: in this series, there's not going to be any double overtime. This isn't going to take long.
no,
That's my only prediction.
no, but yeah. Well, hey, we appreciate everybody. We appreciate all you listeners, and just keep it tuned in. Subscribe on YouTube. Get some subscribers on YouTube. You'll get notified when we go live. Follow us all on Twitter. You'll get notified when we go live there as well. And then also check the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get them. And then just the regular YouTube feed. But we appreciate you guys, and we will talk to you next week.